Is it game on or game over for former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum? He's on to South Carolina in his quest for the GOP presidential nomination. We have fresh reports from the field. And grade the governor. How do you think Tom Corbett did in his first year in office? Join the conversation next on Smart Talk. With a third-place finish in Iowa and a fifth-place showing in New Hampshire, former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum heads south in his quest for the Republican presidential nomination. South Carolina's primary is January 21st. A lot of pundits say it's make-or-break time for Santorum as he tries to become the conservative alternative to leading contender, former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney. Romney made history, becoming the first Republican non-incumbent to sweep the first two primary contests. Polling suggests Santorum might find it tough to earn votes in the Palmetto State, despite a lot of conservative evangelical voters up for grabs. Again, joining me in the Greenwald studio to rate Santorum's chances are Laura Olson, who covered Santorum and other GOP contenders in Iowa and South Carolina for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. John Mysick, State House reporter for the Allentown Morning Call, who's just dying to go on the road, so Morning Call, send him somewhere. Dr. G. Terry Madonna, director of the Franklin and Marshall College Poll, and Matt Belanger, Emmy-winning government reporter with WGAL News 8, who's just back from New Hampshire. And we want to hear from all of you. Call 1-800-729-7532. We know you have opinions about Rick Santorum, pro or con. We want to hear them from you. Email us also at smarttalk@witf.org or post a comment to WITF's Facebook page. I'll tell you what, first thing I want to do, because voters here are not seeing these ads, I want to show you right now an ad that Rick Santorum's campaign is running to introduce him to South Carolina voters.
Who has the best chance to beat Obama? Rick Santorum. A full-spectrum conservative, Rick Santorum is rock solid on values issues.
I'm Rick Santorum, and I approve this message.
Laura, you're just back from South Carolina. How's that going to play there?
Hey, it's all over the TVs down there. So they're seeing a lot of Rick Santorum right now, and they're going to be for the next week. I mean, he flew down from New Hampshire days before the New Hampshire primary to do a couple of quick stops because New Hampshire wasn't going so well for him. And then right after Tuesday night, he was on a plane back down there because that's prime territory for Rick Santorum right now. It's a very socially conservative state. There's a lot of evangelicals. But the folks down there that I talked to, I was down there over the weekend for about 4 or 5 days, and they're all over the place.
President Obama's contraceptive mandate sparks controversy. Should religious-affiliated employers be required to provide contraception coverage? Plus, America wages war against childhood obesity. Where do Pennsylvania and our kids stand in the fight? Join the conversation next on Smart Talk.
As a matter of fact, much of this is duplicit. It's doublespeak. The president comes out and says, we have a compromise. Who did he compromise with?
Well, that's a good question, because you bring that up. And some people have said, have the bishops here been marginalized? Because major Catholic organizations, most of them who are led by clergy, are supporting this compromise. You have the Association of Jesuit Colleges and Universities, the Catholic Health Association, which represents Catholic hospitals, Sister Carol Keehan, Catholic Charities, the Leadership Conference of Women Religious, the Sisters of Mercy. They all signed on to the administration's plan. Your flock's not following you here, at least at those higher echelons of these institutions. Why do you expect the rest of us, essentially, to follow you?
We're not asking you to follow us. We're asking that we would have the right, our Catholic institutions have the right to live our religion the way we believe it. And this idea of the Catholic Health Association, the bishops are the authentic teachers of the Catholic faith. And it doesn't matter whether people follow or not. We can't change what we believe is the teachings. And the bishops are the ones who, in the church, from 2,000 years, that are ones that are the authentic teachers of what is the Catholic faith. And even though other institutions would claim to be affiliated with Catholics, they do not have a right to speak in terms of what is the Catholic faith.
Mike, I wanted to ask you something, too. We got a couple of Facebook messages, and I think I want to have you respond to them. Christine F. writes, as a Catholic woman, I don't want anyone forcing me to subsidize the reproductive choice of someone else. I can't force her to be celibate, but she won't be exercising her choice on my dime. And I think we got another one, too, that had to do, for Marie, here it is. It was my understanding that this plan included not just birth control, but the morning after pill and sterilization. It seems no one is talking about the other two, which I would imagine might bother even pill-taking Catholics. While I personally think that the church should loosen contraception rules, I don't like the government doing it for me.
Well, there are lots of issues, and glad I got a chance to jump in for a little bit. But there are ways that the church can still fulfill its mission, and if it wants to play in the marketplace of healthcare, then it has to compete with other healthcare and abide by the same rules as everybody else.
Good evening, I'm Nell McCormack Abom. This week has been one of the most shocking and heartbreaking times in Pennsylvania history. A once beloved coach, a national icon, a storied university, and the shattered innocence of young boys are at the center of the heartache. The Pennsylvania Attorney General charges longtime Penn State University football coach Jerry Sandusky with sexual assault of 8 young boys over a 15-year period. Some of those attacks allegedly occurred on the main campus of Penn State, and 2 top Penn State administrators are charged with covering up the abuse. The ensuing firestorm leads the Penn State Board of Trustees to dismiss President Graham Spanier and fire legendary head coach Joe Paterno. Neither Paterno nor Spanier has been charged with a crime. WITF's Scott Detrow provides a timeline of this stunning past week.
2 weeks ago, Joe Paterno notched the most wins in NCAA Division I history.
Governor Tom Corbett held a press conference at Penn State tonight just as evening was falling, and he urged students to remain peaceful.
The eyes of the nation are on you. They're fixed on this campus. Look around this room, look around the campus. Please, please, behave and demonstrate your pride in Penn State.
Joining us to begin tonight's conversation is WGAL Sports Director Pat Principe in State College. Pat is outside the Lash building right now. Pat, set the scene for us. Is it your sense that the students are going to listen to that plea for calmness and for peace tonight from the governor?
Yeah, it's definitely a different scene here tonight than it was late last night when you had students protesting rather vigorously downtown, turning over cars, throwing rocks and stuff like that.
MSNBC is reporting now that Joe Paterno has hired a criminal defense attorney. I never thought those words would come out of my mouth. You certainly never thought we would be in this situation. As an alumnus, how do you feel about your institution?
Well, I think it's been a very difficult week for a lot of people. I think Jennifer made a great comment in that first and foremost we need to be concerned about the people that were victimized here and keep that in the forefront. It's very hard, particularly when we're talking about young people here, to keep a focus on the bigger picture. There's a lot of emotion this week. I've had a lot of emotion this week. It's been very, very difficult.
You said to me last night when we talked about the show, I don't know if I can go on because I don't know if I can keep it together for an hour.
Absolutely.
That's Penn State pride, right? I mean, if you live here in central Pennsylvania, you know instinctively what we're talking about. This was part of everyone's culture here in central Pennsylvania.
I went to Penn State. My youngest daughter's still at Penn State. My oldest daughter graduated from Penn State. You're proud of, let's go back a week. You're proud of your institution. You're proud of your coach whose only building on campus that's named after him is the library. So you go back a week, you roll back just 1 week, and everything is great.
In college football history, 409 wins. He was being adulated. We're looking at video now. The glory of that moment to tonight, sitting here knowing that he has hired, reportedly, a criminal defense attorney and has been fired.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate Jennifer's comments because I've never looked at Joe as a football coach. I mean, everybody loves sports and everybody loves to watch football. I'm all about the academics of Penn State.
Welcome to a special edition of Smart Talk. I'm Nell McCormack Abom. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. 31 days to focus on a disease diagnosed in some 230,000 American women each year. Nearly 40,000 will die this year from breast cancer. The good news, though, is that mortality rate is coming down for this disease. Doctors are able to treat successfully many more breast cancer patients than just a few decades ago. And tonight we'll explore some of the reasons why we're making strides against this killer, a disease that has touched so many of our grandmothers, moms, sisters, daughters, and friends. Tonight, as part of WITF's ongoing interactive initiative, Facing Cancer Together, we present the Breast Cancer Awareness Community Forum. Before we introduce our panel and take questions from the studio audience and you at home, let's hear from some of the breast cancer survivors we've met over the past few months.
We chose bilateral mastectomy, and I never looked back. I was so grateful that I did that because I then did get the results, and I am BRCA mutation positive.
We'll talk about that for a sec, but I know that some people in the piece that we saw at the beginning of the program, as well as psychologists, will say for women to remove a breast or both breasts, they feel like their femininity, perhaps their sexuality is taken away. What did you feel? What was that like to have your breasts removed?
It honestly didn't bother me. I had already received a breast reduction several years before. So to me, because I'm short and because of other reasons, I was just take them. Just take them. And so I don't think I felt the same thing that many women do.
Right.
So I can't really relate to that part of it.
Right. You were in your 50s when this was diagnosed, but Lee, you were in your 30s. You said you actually hit a depression wall, and there were fears and concerns you had, even though the outlook was looking pretty good for you. Talk about that.
Yeah, I went through the treatment part pretty easily, both physically and emotionally. But I think towards the end of treatment, and I've met many women that say the same thing, it kind of all came to a head, or the reality of what I had just kind of pushed through became more difficult to deal with as I tried to get back to my job and the normal things that you do in life, trying to figure out who you are when you've gone through something so serious.
And actually, if they're stage 1, I tell them they have as high as a 95% chance that they will be alive and well and free of breast cancer 5 years from now. But we have a lot of work to do in the meantime, and I'm going to need their help. And I want them to fight really hard.
Well, fighting is what I know a lot of the members of our audience, and these two ladies did. They didn't give up. We have a member of the audience now, Dr. Craig Myers from the Penn State Hershey College of Medicine, and he has some really exciting news about a new breakthrough right from his labs. Dr. Myers, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us in brief what you've discovered.
Well, we recently published a paper in our lab just a week or so ago where we used a virus that's commonly found out in the public. Most people are infected by it. It never causes any disease in people, so it's really not looked at that much. But when we put it in breast cancer cells in the tissue culture plate, we came back and all the cells had died.